So we can start with the next presentation. So the next speaker is a sales engagement leader in Nokia, in our company. And after spending years in 4G and 5G research, innovation and leadership, and also executive communication, now she spends most of her time transforming engineering document into friendly, customer-ready stories. In her free time, she likes to walk in the forest and also play computer games. And I think that in question and answers session, you can ask, what games? Agnieszka has a fascinating topic for us, and she will convince us that communication has a fundamental impact on our professional success. It's my pleasure to welcome Agnieszka Szufarska. Ladies and gentlemen, Agnieszka Szufarska, you can do better. Presentations that are focused and captivating. Agnieszka, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Okay, I would guess that you can hear me well. Thanks for coming. And the fact is that all of us, no matter the job type that we take, we all need to present our ideas. We need to present them to our colleagues, to our bosses. We all need to do this, even if we dread it, right? So, as said, I will teach you how you can be more captivating when presenting, how to make your material more focused. And I will do this in 3 steps. First, how to plan your presentation, then how to develop the content, and finally how to engage with the audience. But then I think that's one rule for many presentations. Before you tell them your story, you need to scare them first. So that's the scaring part now. 95% of us lose focus when we are in the meetings, and you can act surprised, but I bet you don't. I bet you are also one of the ones who would doze off in meetings, who would miss part of the content, and I'm pretty sure that you would multitask in the meetings as well, right? We would do our emails when in an online call, we check our phones, and we check our Instagrams or whatever we have, right? We do that. So let's maybe skip the denial phase at the beginning. We do that. And this is actually not surprising. We should not be surprised. This is diagnosed long ago. And actually the curve I will show now, this comes from 1992. And this is a curve by a researcher by the name Graham Gibbs. And Graham, he published this in a book that was a result of a study that was about improving the quality of student learning. So you can see here, there is this initial attention boost, right? So you want to know what this will be about, but then obviously you're disillusioned and you doze off, and this takes a lot of time. And then, okay, because you dozed off, as the meeting gets closer to the end, okay, maybe they have some key points in this meeting that I can listen to that will save me at least a bit, right? What this was all about. This is what happens. But then there is also good news for you. And the good news is that we are not doomed. We can control this attention curve, and I will show you how in this speech. I am on a quest. This is a bit provocative because I'm still here, but in my professional life, I try to learn a lot. I read books, I try to improve my presentations, I also improve other people's presentations, and I also want to teach you how to be better. And I want to teach you to be better at presenting, because it will impact the life for you, but also your colleagues, because we don't need to waste so much time in those meetings. We don't need to waste so much time. Maybe some of the meetings are not even needed. Maybe we could go with a whiteboard discussion instead of that 45-minute call where people do their emails. Or maybe we can write an email. And if we have a meeting, let's make it meaningful. meaningful. Let's prepare well. Okay, you will say, all the things that I teach you will waste your time, because it will not be sufficient that you take some slides that you have from your older presentations, left and right, maybe some from this presentation, some you borrow from a colleague, you glue them together, and this you go to your colleagues with this Frankenstein presentation, right? This is faster, but then this is less efficient, because people will know that you do not treat them with respect, that you did not put effort to understand what this is that you want them to understand. What is your key point? You did not develop the content for them. You are just reusing. And okay, sometimes it's fine to reuse, and I do it as well. But you need to know the purpose. And if people know that you treat them with respect, if you are focused, if you are crisp, if you engage with your audience, the meeting will be more meaningful. Okay, I'm not like completely in denial. There will still be people doing their emails, and there will still be people who are not listening or just don't want to engage. But the chances that your presentation will have impact are much, much higher if you bear with me for the rest of this speech. On to the planning. Think before doing. And for this is the part where you don't start your presentation by putting together these bits and pieces of your monster. This is where you would start with a completely blank sheet of paper. And why do you do it? Why? Because you want to remove all distractions. You need to get in touch with your own mind, with your idea, with your sense of purpose. What do you want to achieve? And for that, your computer, your chat messages, your emails, even music. So those things can be a distraction. And of course, there also are electronic means of logging the ideas, and maybe different things works best for different people. But I recommend that you at least give it a try. Start with a blank sheet of paper, maybe some post-its, or maybe go for a walk and voice log your ideas. The point is that this is a bit like a brainstorming just with yourself. You log everything that comes to mind. All the ideas, no matter how stupid, ideas on the content, on the presentations, on the charts that you want to include, maybe some quotes, maybe some ideas from your colleagues, anything that comes to mind. You want to log everything, yeah? That's what you're after. What you need to understand at this point, and this is something that I was not aware until very short ago when I was taught this by John Zimmer. John was giving a training for Nokia. He also runs a great blog, Manner of Speaking, and John taught us this thing. So you know yourself, you are the speaker. Then you know your subject, because, well, there must be a point why you are speaking on the topic. If you don't know the subject, okay, that maybe you're doomed. Then there's the audience. And this is the very important part, because knowing your audience and adjusting the presentation for this audience is the most common mistake that people do if we skip it. And what is important for understanding the situation are those arrows here. So all the arrows, they represent the relation. So the relation between the speaker and the subject. Obviously, I am speaking to you about the design of presentations because I am on a quest and I have been reading a lot and researching this topic, right? This is this relation. Then, the relation between speaker and the audience. Well, we are mostly strangers. I know some of you, but most of you I don't know. But then there are different kinds of this relation possible. Maybe you are presenting for your colleagues, your peers. But then maybe the audience has authority over you. Maybe you're presenting to your bosses, or a board of directors, or somebody who decides whether your project will continue. then maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's you who has the authority over audience. Maybe you try to motivate your team to do something. Maybe you want to motivate them to spend more time at work, right? Sometimes you may need to do that. Then, what's the relationship between the audience and the subjects? Right. So I have, for example, made this bold assumption that many of you would not have researched a lot about presentations, because this is Code Dive, and this is a conference for experts in a completely different area. I am not a programmer. I once was, or at least I think of myself that I was, but I was programming in MATLAB. I hope you're not laughing. Then this relationship is also a question. How much do they know about the topic? How much do they need to know? Or maybe they are opposed to the topic. Maybe I'm trying to pitch something, and then you don't want to spend money for my idea. Maybe you are resistant. So there are different variations here, and depending on each of those, the situation would actually change. Now, we are finding the core, the most important part of your presentation. This is a bit like an elevator pitch. I'm pretty sure about this, you know, but even shorter. So why is this important? Well, my core for this speech is this: I want to motivate you. That's my goal. I want to motivate you to spend effort designing your presentations. I want you to invest your time before your meetings so that your meetings are of better quality. And why you should care? First, you should care because this shows respect for your colleagues. But maybe you're not so altruistic. So you should also care because this gives you more impact. If you prepare well for your presentation, there is a higher chance of a success, whatever you have the success defined as, right? So I know my core, I know why you should care, and what's also important, how this will be useful, because right now I am in this luxurious position that hopefully I get to keep my time slot, but in your work life, it's sometimes not the case, because maybe somebody who was presenting before you, maybe they have run overtime, and instead of 40 minutes, you have 20. So how do you select the slides that you use? What do you skip? If you know your core, you can easily adapt, you can adjust. But without it, chances are that you start flipping fast through whatever you have prepared, or you just come and say first thing that comes to mind, not necessarily the most important thing, just the first thing that came, right? Or you're just going from the beginning and then, you run out of time before you reach your conclusion. So knowing your core allows you to adapt. And actually, by finding your core, you have already made your first step in moving from expansion phase to the extraction phase. That's how all great material comes to be. First, you get to expand, put all the ideas out there. That's also true for the products or programs as well, right? So first, you generate the ideas, but then you extract. Then you need to find the essence, find the best part. And this is what you start doing now. You go over all of your things, your ideas on this blank sheet of paper, the post-its, if you were doing this electronically, despite my advice, right? You also go over that thing, yeah? And then you group them thematically. Maybe you discard the ones that are nonsense. I have discarded many of the ideas that appeared great at the beginning when I was preparing for this speech, right? But then I thought, okay, who came up with something so cheesy, right? So this is what you do. You structure them a bit. And this is when we leave the first part. You can open your computer now, you're allowed. You don't need to work on the paper only, right? You develop your presentation now. The structure needs to fit your context. You remember the triangle. You know to whom you are speaking, you know what about you are speaking, and you need to find the right structure. This can be like the pros and the cons and your recommendation, or if this is just something that you need to go through, it's 1, 2, 3, or it's chronological, or maybe it's a sales pitch, then you like scare them, then you tell them your solution, and then you're saved, you can buy my product. Whatever it is, you need to find the right structure, and we don't have time to go over the options, but you will learn, right? What's the most important is that you are very clear in your opening. You want to state your purpose for the speech to your audience, and you want to tell them what you will tell them. You want to tell them the structure. Actually, this is one thing that my boss always says, that the best structure for presentation is tell them what you will tell them, then tell them, and then at the end, tell them what you told them, right? Repeat at the end the points. And I will do this as well, yeah? So he can be proud of me. The stories. I have now just walked from the lecture from Paweł Tkaczyk, and Paweł was amazing. I don't have stories or many stories in my speech, but his speech was packed with stories. And if you were not there at the lecture, I really recommend or demand that you watch it. I think it was really amazing. The stories. Story is not just like a fairy tale or a role-playing game campaign scheme, right? So it's a joke. It's also a story how you were stuck in a traffic jam, but then you were late for a meeting, but you found a smart way around this, and then you triumphed at the end and you were on time. Or it's a story about a product that was really dated and old and nobody wanted to develop it, but then you found a smart way to refactor it and structure into parts that it's actually what the customer needs and it's extendable again. So you have the protagonist, some headwinds or difficult circumstances, and then finally a triumph at the end. So stories really stick. And this is evolutionary. This is because back in the day, we were a tribe of people gathered around the fireplace, the hunters, gatherers, and we were sharing stories about what happened to one another. And this is why this sticks better than facts. And actually, this is now the time for my first recommendation, actually second, because I told you about John's blog. But the recommendation is a book made to stick. And this is how the ideas get propagated or fail and die miserably. So the stories is just a part of that, right? That's this S. Obviously, you have noticed that there's a typo in the success, but well, you would do a lot for a catchy acronym, right, or abbreviation, right? But then, simplicity is my personal favorite. Unexpected. If you have a plot twist in your presentation, you would be much better off, right? Concrete. This means that you are putting evidence and data into the presentations. And for many presentations, you actually need this and you cannot go without it. The credibility is maybe you have a quote from your customer who have bought the product and you can use the credibility from this reference. The emotion, right? Everybody is drawn to the emotion. Yeah? So this book is my first recommendation. I will not stop here for longer, but then let's go. So the first S is simple, and this is also, okay, first we need to add evidence. I was hoping that we already go to the simplification. We need to add evidence, but I will not stop here for long, because adding evidence to your presentation is something that you do well already now. In fact, this is what we do all the time. We make our presentations by adding evidence. We skip the earlier steps. We skip some of the later steps. We just take the evidence that we have and we put this in the presentation. So we still need this. We cannot persuade anyone without the evidence, without the architectural blueprint, without the design that we have, right? So I will not stop here for long. But then, beware the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is why you sometimes fail to explain your field of expertise to people who are new to it, or who are less experts, or who are even in your company or in your field, but a few layers above, that they need to manage more areas and are less experts. Because if an expert tries to explain their field, even if they try to simplify, they will still not simplify enough. It will still very often be too complex and overloaded with data. So this is the curse of knowledge. You can read more about this. And among the data that you are putting in your presentation, there are the charts. So who of you would recognize where the chart is from? Who knows the Gapminder? So the Gapminder is the best, in my opinion, the best place where you would see the clear graphs and charts and visual representations of data. If you know a better one, challenge me or come after the presentation, we can discuss, but I dare say that the Gapminder and the work from Professor Hans Rosling were the best examples of representing data, because the right chart is an extremely powerful tool. But with great power comes great responsibility, right? You of course know the quote by Voltaire, and not the Spider-Man's uncle. And this is an example of a good chart. But very often, what you would get when you present a chart to your colleagues, they would see them like, what is this curve about? What are the, What is this curve about? What are the axes? What are the categories? Why is this going down if I was expecting this to go up? Maybe somebody has just missed the order of the axis, right? So there are so many mistakes you can make when choosing a plot. So Say It With Charts is another book that I recommend for anyone who's using charts and plots to represent their data. But then, I think, finally, I can now skip to what I wanted to skip before, because this is my favorite. It's the simplification. The simplification is what is very often missing in our presentations. It is the ultimate sophistication. It is much easier to create a long presentation than a short one. Because to develop a short one, you need to know which parts you can leave away and which parts are essential. It takes effort to conceive this planning phase, right? Of course, you can always oversimplify. We don't want to do it, right? But I would say the majority of presentations that I see at work, both in Nokia, but also from other companies, right? They are just complex. They could use a bit or a few bits of simplification, right? So how do you simplify? You don't want to overload your slides. You don't want to put full sentences out there. You don't want to have more than one idea or concept per slide. If you have more than one concept or idea per slide, just break it down. It doesn't hurt to have a presentation of 10 or 20 very simplistic slides with just a few words and a visual per slide. You just flip more slides, right? It does not mean that it has to take more time. You need to break this down because it's difficult for the audience to follow if you have too much on one slide. Then you want to simplify the visual design. So if you would have too many colors and animations and things popping up and whatever, this is also distracting. It's taking their attention away from what you want them to understand. Unless it's your point, because sometimes it's your point to overwhelm the audience initially to then maybe save them, right? But as a rule, try to simplify also the visual aspects. If you have a brand, stick to it. The brand people in every company are experts in design. They know which colors are harmonious with one another, or the fonts and the consistency between the slides. All of that is important, even if you think you're not, because I know many of my colleagues would quarrel what I'm just saying now, right? But then you could say, Aga, you are advertising the simplicity because you have a non-technical presentation. You are talking to us about ideas and concepts, so this is not practical for technical work. But I have anticipated that. And by the way, Nokia is a world leader in carrier aggregation, so and you can see here a few speed records, right? A bit of context for each of those, and a simplified technical view for each of those, right? So if you look carefully, you will see that you have the technology information, you have the type of the frequency, right? FDD or TDD, type of duplex. You have the frequency, the total amount of spectrum, how this is broken down into different layers, how many layers are aggregated. So a technical person would also understand the basics, how these speed records are achieved. And then, of course, I didn't make this slide. I wish I did, but I didn't. My colleagues did. But this is an example. You can also do this for technical work. And then, if you need to go deeper, you can also do that. Just you break down. You have one slide, maybe with a chart, how in practice the architecture was looking, and so on and so forth. You need to break down and simplify, and you can do this even for technical content. But after you are done with your material, your work is actually far from over. Because you also need to engage with your audience. If you would just go out there, even worse in the Teams meetings or the virtual meetings, if you would just start speaking and speak with a monotonous voice throughout all the slides, slide after slide, just flipping, no variation in your voice, no interaction with your audience, no questions, no acknowledgement that they are there. Well, why should they be there? They can do their emails, right? The emails won't respond themselves. And now I would show you one exceptionally good speaker. You can think about whom I will show, but I guess more than half of you would guess correctly. Congratulations, well done. So Steve Jobs, he was a very talented speaker. He practiced a lot. He had a team to advise him, but he was also a natural. He was following the rule of simplicity, but if you look at the photos, he was also very passionate. He was bringing the emotions to stage. It was clearly visible that he cares about anything that he holds in his hand, about his products, right? I think there are some memes online, like contrasting the Apple launches with Microsoft launches. I think there is one photo of the Microsoft launch with like exactly this, like tons of icons here and there and everywhere, and somehow overwhelming the presenter, right? So it takes talent to be an exceptionally great presenter, like world class. We can't all be that, right? But we can all practice and improve. But what's most important, we all can try to connect with the audience. And we can inbuild mechanisms to control the attention curve in our material. You can control the attention curve. I told you in the beginning. You can control it, right? I have drawn this green line myself. It's like a mock-up, whatever, right? This is how I can imagine it could look like. So first, you can control the slope. Maybe the attention doesn't have to dip so fast. Maybe it can like fluctuate, sort of flattish for a while, if you're good. You can add the attention grabbing events in the middle of your lecture, right? Or you can adjust your tone of voice, or you can just, if your lecture is long, maybe you want everybody to have a break and get a coffee and then continue after with the reset energy level. So you know your material. You know how long it is. You know, you can anticipate when people will be bored. Or you can also rehearse. You can ask your colleague to listen to you and ask for genuine feedback. Okay, when did you actually start to doze off, and hope that they tell you the truth, right? And then you can try to manage this. You can try to add these events. So what controls the slope of the curve? The things that we have discussed already. It's the tone of your voice. It's whether your slides are simple or whether they are overloaded. Those all things that we have discussed, they all control the slope. And then you can add this attention-grabbing events over the course of your presentation, like I have added here or here, right? So you can tell a joke, you can add a story, make a longer pause and ask them a question and hope that somebody is there and would answer. This is pretty daring, right? Asking a question and actually making a pause to listen whether somebody answers, right? And all that allows you to control or try to control the attention curve, because we should not also fool ourselves. This is a time where everyone has the phone in the pocket and the tool, the lure, the bait to jump in this whole world of distraction at the palm of our hand, right? It's not even the emails. It's also all the social media or whatever there is, right? But then you can at least have a go. You can try. But whatever you do, don't broadcast. Don't broadcast. Don't just stand there and speak and forget about everyone and be so submerged in your own story and trying to finish it that you don't relate to the audience. I think that's the most important message that I have for you for the delivery, for the engagement with the audience. I want you to engage and not broadcast. Because if you just broadcast, well, a broadcast is something that you listen to or maybe not listen to or maybe watch later offline, yeah. What we have done is we have, you see what I'm doing now? I'm now telling you what I told. I have told you how to plan your presentation. I have told you how to develop the content, and I have told you how to engage with your audience, right? And then I have 2 more things for you before I finish, and maybe we have some time for questions. The first thing is the recommendations. I have put the different order. The first thing is the recommendations for you to continue learning. If you also study the topic, right? And then let me know. Maybe there are some great books that I haven't read yet, right? Let me know, because I want to learn. I want to study and know more and be better, because I am on a quest, right? I am. The manner of speaking, I told you already, that's the blog from John Zimmer. And John writes a blog not only about the presentation making, but also rhetorics, right? So how to speak. This is extremely interesting. I advise you read a bit. Then the 3 books. I mentioned already the Made to Stick. I mentioned briefly, without the picture, the Say It with Charts. This is a great one. It's a bit old one, but it really shows when to use which chart. If this is about a relation of variables, if this is about a distribution of variables, if this is about proportions or time series, different combinations. And it also has a lot of this before and after examples, and how a bad and puzzling and confusing chart can look like, and then how you can simplify it, how you can have more impact with a chart. And then the presentation Zen does the same. So a lot of before and after examples, and how to develop, how to design your presentations, how to make your slides look good and nice. Yeah? And then, sorry, there was just a message. I was distracted myself. That's what the watches do now. This is a checklist. And actually, I would hope maybe I can put the slides up somewhere on a conference page, or you can just send me an email or connect over LinkedIn. I can send them. This is a checklist that I have prepared for you, right? So what to do in the planning phase, don't forget. What to do in the content development phase, and what to do or not to do when engaging with the audience. So the things that I said in this lecture are here. You can just take this list and use it as this sort of cheat sheet when preparing your own stuff, right? Yes, and this is my final message. That's what I want you to take away from this presentation. Be kind to your colleagues, respect them, spend effort before your presentation. Prepare well and make your meetings meaningful. And this can make the world a better place for all of us, because maybe at some point in the future I would attend your presentation, and I don't want it to be boring. Thank you. Thank you. Questions? We have time. We have 6 minutes.
We have some minutes left for questions. So if you have any questions, then raise your hand and we'll come to you and bring you the microphone. Okay.
If you thought I was wrong at some point, if you want to challenge me, you're welcome.
Maybe I have a question. So
Okay.
I have a question about the meetings within Teams. So for example, do you have any recommendations how to make, for example, retrospectives or, for example, plannings and dailies more meaningful and more, how to say it, more better?
Yeah. First of all, you should within a team have a look. Is everybody who speaks in the meeting, is everybody being concise? Sometimes it's hard to give feedback to the colleagues that, okay, you were taking too much time, because some people just like to talk and guilty as charged, right? So people sometimes like the sound of their own voice and they like to explain and talk, right? So if you have such people on the team, it would drag on, right? So try to set rules for your team and try to be more disciplined, Yeah? If everybody on a team would follow the rule of simplicity and sticking only to the core of what needs to be said in a meeting, I'm pretty sure that we can improve the life also in the dailies or weeklies, right?
Okay, thank you.
Well, good luck.
Do we have any more questions? If we don't, then thank you very
We
much,
can
Aga.
talk offline. Thanks.
It was
Thanks,
a
guys.
very,
Thanks for
very
coming.
interesting presentation. So thank you once again.
Thanks for coming.
And please